Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to the sheep pen, bah, where no goats are allowed. So today, I want to talk about what it takes to be a champion. We are the champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting to the end. Do-do-do-do-do. You finish the rest. You know, the phrase champion has come to mean some things it was never meant to mean, and it's taken on a whole new meaning. When we think of a champion, we think of a boxing champion. We think of a football team being the championship football team. You can be a champion of a dart game. It's come to mean the winner of a contest, the winner of a competition. But that's not the original meaning of what it means to be a champion. Like other words that have been distorted, like hero, just one among many words that have been changed, and their meanings aren't as strong as they once were. What is the origin of the word champion, and what does it mean to be a champion? Before we get started, though, I want to thank all of you who support this channel financially. This channel is funded by viewers like you. Your support keeps this channel alive and keeps these videos coming. I don't advertise or have any promotions on this channel, and it's supported completely by viewers like you through the links in the description below. And I want to thank all of you who share your hard-earned money with me so I can keep the lights on here in the cabin and keep these videos coming your way. And if you'd like to contribute, you'll find links in the description to PayPal and to Cash App and to my P.O. Box as well. Plus, there's an email address down there. Drop me a line, and I'll get back to you when I can. So, being a champion used to mean something different than it means today. It didn't just mean the winner of a contest or a competition. This goes back to the days of jousting. This is the last time that word was really properly applied. And the reason that word is carried forward into sports is because modern sports kind of all derive from some form of simulated combat. Think about football, for instance. One army lines up across the line from another army, and they fight to win territory and get closer to their goal. And so simulated combat has become sports as we know it today. And this word has traveled from clear back in the day, back when it meant something different. See, jousting turned out to be eventually a game, but originally it was a duel between two men over honor. If someone challenged you to a duel, you had the option back in the day of accepting their challenge, admitting defeat without a fight, and giving them whatever it is they want, an apology, part of your property, or a financial reimbursement. And or you could, if you were weak, or if you didn't know how to fight, or if you were feeble in any way, or handicapped, or just not a very good fighter, you could have someone champion for you. They would become your champion. They would fight on your behalf. And so when people that were very important and couldn't afford to get busted up in a fight or get killed in a duel, they would send a champion in their place. During the jousting days, a strong king would get out there with the rest of the young men and compete in this simulated combat, these that would become games, these things that would become sports nowadays. But when they got older, or if they had some kind of disability or injury, they couldn't participate, then they would choose a knight to represent them to be their champion. And this is all rooted in a form of ancient combat, a war alternative, where instead of one tribe rising up against another tribe and trying to destroy the entire tribe, and in many times destroying the land and properties they were fighting over, the territory they were fighting over, they found a more civilized form of war where they would choose their champions. This is even older than jousting. This goes back to ancient times, back to biblical times. They would choose a champion to represent all of the members of the tribe, all of the members of the nation. And the two, typically leaders, the two kings might fight it out in single combat. Or if they were too old, or the other king was much stronger and more powerful than them, they would choose a champion to represent their people in single combat, in a winner-take-all kind of wager. And we see this played out in the story of David and Goliath from the Bible. You see, we know from biblical and from archaeological evidence and other reliable folklore that in ancient days, giants dwelled amongst us. This is recorded in the Bible and other ancient texts. And we don't know how big these Philistine giants were. When the children of Israel first come into the Holy Land of Israel around Jerusalem, they find that the land there is already occupied by giants. And the Bible tells us that they made the Israelites look like grasshoppers in comparison. That they were so big they made their men look like bugs. And most of these giants were defeated in combat over centuries. But at the time of the story of David and Goliath, a family of these giants still exist amongst the Philistines. And one of them has been chosen and is the undefeated champion of the Philistines, because some would argue Goliath was 7 foot tall, some would claim 12. It wouldn't be out of the question to assume that Goliath might have been as tall as 14 or 16 feet tall. We know because of the size of some of the beds that were recorded from these ancient days, and some of the coffins that were used to bury these giants of old. And so this Philistinian group of agitators comes against a group of Israelites, and they're mocking them, and they're degrading them, and they're bullying them, and they're challenging them to a fight. Well, neither side really wants open warfare, so the Philistines put up their champion, Goliath, this enormous, terrifying warrior that none of the men of Israel know in a one-on-one combat they're not going to win. They're going to be killed if they go up against this champion. And no one is brave enough amongst them to stand up to this tyrant, this bully, this enormous giant. He's terrifying. And he says things against the Israeli people. He blasphemes their God and their religion. And this gets all over everybody, but there's one person in particular who's witnessing this, that the righteous indignation in him rises up to the boiling point. And even though he's a small, not fully grown teenage boy, he's not a warrior, he doesn't own a sword, he isn't equipped, he doesn't have the background for it, but he decides, if they're not going to do anything about this blasphemer, I will. And he steps up to the challenge, much to everyone's shock. But rather than just submit and roll over or accept open warfare with the Philistines, they decide to give little David a shot. Now, as it is customary when you send forth a champion to fight on your behalf, you equip them. Champions of old were often given food and clothing and shelter and protection and office and money and equipment to fight on behalf of the people they represented. And so they attempted to do this with little David, but they didn't know that David came equipped by God. That David was already equipped with everything he needed to fight this fight. But as was customary, they tried to give him Saul's, or the king's, armor so that he could be properly equipped and protected. But he had all he needed because he had God on his side. See, he wasn't just a champion. He was a champion raised up by God. And when you're a champion raised up by God, then you are already equipped. You have all that you need because you have God on your side. David tried on this armor and he found it to be not fitting for him, and he was not comfortable in it because he already had a track record of being a killer. You see, David was a shepherd, and we all know that shepherds are to lead the flock. They're to lead them to lie down beside the still waters. They're to tend to their boo-boos and take care of their young. But the number one job description of a shepherd is to protect the sheep from predators. So David did this, equipped with a weapon that you still see on the streets of Palestine to this day, and that is the simple sling, a leather patch with leather cordage connected on each end, creating a cradle where you could put a smooth stone into this cradle. You swing it around and you let go one side, and if you're good, it's just as accurate as firearm and just about as deadly. And David had used this simple device to kill mountain lions and bears and wolves and every other kind of predator that tried to eat his sheep. And he had taken them down with this simple weapon, and he felt like it was enough. It was enough of a weapon, and one he was familiar with, to go against Goliath with. And everyone laughed when he refused the armor. When he stepped in unarmored, essentially unarmed, armed only with a simple shepherd's tool. And because of his righteous indignation, and because God rose that up in him. See, if you feel righteous indignation, it's not just natural, it might be supernatural. God might be stirring up righteous indignation in you, so you will rise up and become a champion for a cause, become a champion for a people, become a champion for an idea. And then when you do that, when you have that righteous indignation, you're more powerful than a hired champion. You're more powerful than a paid employee. You have this superpower because you have been put there by God. That righteous indignation didn't come from just nowhere. It was inspired by God to produce an action in you. And why did God choose David to be a champion? Because he would. Because he was willing. Because he was confident that God had his back, because he knew that righteous indignation, that desire to defend, was coming from a holy and righteous source. It was coming from God. And when God is with you, who can be against you? He chose 3 smooth stones, and he stepped out onto the battlefield to face this giant. And with one swing of that sling, that simple tool, he brought that giant warrior to his knees. You see, God is looking for champions. We're in a time when bullies are running rampant. We're in a time when corruption is everywhere. We're in a time where the common man feels powerless against the giants of this world. We feel powerless against our governments that have become corrupt. We feel powerless against the press that has become oppressive and a source of disinformation. We feel powerless against a system designed to crush us. We feel powerless when our votes aren't counted, when open tampering of elections is going on a daily basis and it's become normal. It has a way of making us all feel helpless. But God is going to raise up champions to take this fight on. He's going to raise up people of the most unusual sort. The people that seem the most unlikely of choices. Like little David, a shepherd boy, an unlikely choice. But see, God chooses people who listen. God chooses people who are obedient. God chooses people who will face the fear head on and be unafraid to champion the righteous, to champion the afflicted, to champion the victims, to champion for those who are too weak to fight for themselves. We are entering into a time where God is raising up champions. And at the risk of sounding arrogant, I'm confident that God raised me up as a champion. Hey, I may not be good with the sling. I may be too old to fight. I may be too old to run for office and do all the difficult things. Hey, some older people than me run for office. They're all old. But yeah, that's a lot of work. I'm not sure I'm up to it. But what I can do is talk. God gave me the gift of gab. God gave me a sharp tongue. God gave me an articulate vocabulary. God gave me the ability to speak in fluid motions and to convey ideas and convictions and to move mountains through speech. The Bible tells us if we speak to that mountain, it can be cast into the sea. God raised me up because of my faith as well. Because I believe that I'm a representative of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. That I am on the right side. And I am filled with righteous indignation. Sometimes God raises up champions for people that can't fight for themselves. Maybe you're not the most articulate. Maybe you don't have a YouTube channel. Maybe you don't have time to do the research I've got. I'll be your champion. Equip me, right? Share with me. Take care of me, and I will do this job for you. But I'd do it even if you didn't. Even if I had to go out there with a simple sling. Even if I had to go out there and be completely vulnerable. Because I know, in the end, God's going to take care of me. God uses you guys to take care of me, and I thank you so much. But I want to talk more about how you can become a champion. See, when you feel those feelings of righteous indignation, when you feel those feelings of frustration, don't bury them. Don't accept them. Let that righteous indignation, that frustration build in you to a point of action. You see, if anything, I might also be described as a clarion call. What is a clarion call? That's another old word. A clarion call is someone who calls you to action. Not only am I taking action through my words, I'm calling you to raise up as champions in this fight against evil. I'm a clarion call, blowing the whistle on the enemy, showing you that the devil's on a rampage, showing you that this world is on the verge of the tipping point, that if we don't rise up, the Philistines are going to walk on us. If we don't rise up, the giants are going to humiliate us. They're going to take over our country, take over our world, take over our churches, and drive us into extinction. You must use your voice now. You must use your checkbook and your pocketbook now. You must utilize what is ever available to you, even if it's a simple sling, to come against the giants of this world, the corporations that rule us, the corrupt government that exploits us, the press that lies to us, the churches that are supposed to be filled with holy men that take care of us, and so many of them are just abusing our children. It's happening everywhere, every day, all the time. It's deplorable. What we can't do is cower and shiver behind a rock. You need to either equip a champion to work on your behalf, or you need to rise up and be a champion. And I'll tell you something else. Yes, I am a champion for our cause. I'm a champion for you. I'm out here putting my neck on the line, saying the things many of you are afraid to say, talking about topics that might frighten some of you. But in so many ways, those of you who support this channel financially are my champions. You're championing me. You're making it possible for me to follow through with God's calling on my life. And see, no matter how little you have, no matter how weak you may seem, there's always someone that needs your help. I got to take my hat off to the champions who rose to the occasion in North Carolina and Tennessee this last couple of weeks, who went out against all opposition into the devastation of this storm, armed only with a chainsaw and a hard hat and a desire to do something. See, they didn't sit on their couch and go, woe is me. They answered the call. They became the champion for those that were stranded. They became the champion for those that were thirsty and hungry. They became the champion for those who were surviving this devastation. See, at one point or another, God's going to call on all of us to be a champion of some sort or another. That righteous indignation that you felt when you saw those people suffering in North Carolina and Tennessee and Georgia and Florida, that made you want to do something, God put that there. When you hear me talking about the corruption that's taking control of our world, when you hear me talking about demons who laugh in your face and how we have to rise up and fight them, when you hear that and you feel that righteous indignation in you, it's a call to action to either become a champion or to support a champion But what you can't do is let them walk on us. We can't let them walk on us. We can't let the devil run roughshod over our people. We can't let the enemy infiltrate every area of society unchecked. If nothing more, become a clarion call, a call to action. Become a mouth. Become a writer. Start a club. Start a YouTube channel. Start a prayer circle. Start a drum circle. Do something. Just don't sit on your couch and go, well, I guess they're coming for us. God may be calling you to champion someone. And, you know, I'm championing this family that I take care of. Twice now I've rescued them from homelessness, gave them a place to live. And even though I have very little here, I live in a shack in the woods, I did have space for them to come and have shelter. And God's really called me to be a champion for little man, the little 2-year-old boy. God's got a purpose for his life. God may call you as a champion to be a caregiver. He may call you as a champion to be a speaker, to be a writer. Maybe just to share the truth with the people around you. I know it seems scary. I know it seems terrifying. The size and the power of the enemies that we face in this world today. These demonically possessed, demonically inspired, marching to demonic orders. These people are destroying not just America, but the whole world. They destroy lives every day. And thankfully, there are people that are hearing the call. They're hearing that righteous indignation. They feel it building up in them to a point of action, and they're going to do something. Even if it's just to say, look, the emperor has no clothes. I'm proud to be a champion for our beliefs. I'm proud that you have championed for me and supported me and equipped me and are keeping me alive and above ground and my bills paid. I'm struggling a little bit this month, y'all. Any extra help could sure come in handy. I'm short on budget this month. But everyone needs to do their part. Not everybody will have the courage to stand up, but maybe you're the guy that helps equip a champion. Maybe you're the person that champions causes in your own way. You know, prayer is also an action. I'm calling on all of you to at least pray. Pray for our country. Pray for this election. Pray that this division between us would be healed. Pray that these people that are controlled by demons would get freed. And I have a multi-purpose role in all of this. One is to teach you how to fight the devil in spiritual warfare. The other one is to be the clarion call and to shine a light on the darkness and show you what's going on in this evil world. Show you how we got here. Be a voice of reason, a voice crying in the wilderness. I want you to search your heart when you feel that righteous indignation. How can you turn that into action, into change, into courage? If you feel those frustrations, it's simply God calling you to be a champion. And I don't mean a sports star. I mean a real champion. Someone who's willing to fight for the weak and the underprivileged. Who's willing to stand up against bullies. I fought a lot in school, and most of the time it was because I was standing up to defend somebody else from a bully. We can't let these devils that have infiltrated our world to continue to bully us and pull us down. God is raising up champions. Will you be a champion? Will you hear the call? Will you hear the clarion call to action? I pray that you will. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it inspired you. If it did, consider making a donation in the links below in the description, and I'll leave you with this powerful prayer. God, surround us in your ring of fire and hedge of thorns of protection. God, raise up champions in our world to make war against the enemy. Lord, raise up champions in this world that would bring spiritual warfare to bear against these demon entities that are trying to infiltrate and take over our world, oh Lord. Free us from this oppression, God. Empower us, strengthen us, and choose us to be champions, Lord. Those of us who aren't called to be champions, Lord, allow us to be equippers, to equip other people, to hold them up and support them through prayer and donations and moral support and kind words, Lord. Let us not be a people of inaction in Jesus' name. Free us, Lord, from our own fear. Surround us in your ring of fire and hedge of thorns of protection. Send mighty angels of sufficient rank, authority, and number to drive the enemy from our midst. And cover us in your peace, O Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.